Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Black and White United Show. I'm your host, Andreas. Thank you so much for tuning in with me this evening. A little bit of a special one today. This is the second video that I'm doing today, so consider yourselves lucky. Jack Silvagni to the Pies. Let's talk about it. Roll the intro.
0, 1. Let's get started.
So never in my lifetime did I ever think that Collingwood would be actually close on getting a Silvagni into our AFL program. Now, you think of the name, it's synonymous with the enemy and the torture that his old man obviously put us through and stuff. And obviously it goes back, the generation to Jack's grandfather as well. So the fact that Collingwood is looking at this quite seriously from all reports it's interesting. There's been rumours floating around over past seasons that potentially that we could be after someone like him. Not strong ones, just more like what ifs and rumours and, a little bit of, just media highlight grabbing sensationalism and stuff like that, I suppose. But something that I'm pretty interested in to find out more about, and what I think we all would be interested to find out more about, is this offer that Collingwood's got on the table a potential 5-year offer from what we're hearing? What would he be worth? Matthew Lloyd today on 3RW has says that he'd be worth about $800,000 a season. Now, if you look at Jack Viney and the history of his time at Carlton, it hasn't been smooth sailing. From an observer from the outside, without doing too much research, but obviously keeping an eye on players here and there when they come in, come out, and hearing stuff. He's played a total of 121 games, and he came to Carlton in the father-son pick 50-something, I think it was, in 2016. Now, for him to come at 2016 and only play 121 games, he's obviously had his injuries and his setbacks and stuff like that here and there. But where does that fit into the Collingwood lineup? And that's the big thing I want to talk about. So Jack missed out on pretty much the entirety of the 2024 season through an ACL injury. Now, you obviously don't wish that upon anybody, even if they play for Carlton. It's a horrible thing to go through. But he's come back this season and he's actually played quite well for Carlton this season. So if he was to come to Collingwood on a potential 5-year offer at around 800,000, hypothetically, let's say, what position could he play for us, and where right now does he fit in? Now, in my opinion, if there was, for whatever reason, the mid-season trade that everyone's talking about behind the scenes, is it going to come into fruition? Who knows? If that was to come into play right now and I was Collingwood, I'd be throwing the kitchen sink at him to get him across. Why? You look at the game against Fremantle. Let's just say if he goes and plays in defence, where most likely he probably would play, with the likes of Billy Frampton injured, Dan Houston injured, Jeremy Howe injured, at the moment, he would fit in seamlessly. And he'd be another lockdown defender. He could potentially even be a swingman if you wanted to play him forward. To this date right now, he's kicked 89 goals for Carlton. So as a defender, primarily, he's spent a fair bit of time up forward. But on the flip side, he's also spent time in the ruck being a third tall. He's not a short bloke. I don't have his height or anything with me at the moment, but I know for a fact he has actually played as a third tall ruck. So if that's the case, then you look at our ruck stocks at Collingwood and who we've got. You look at our forward line right now, could potentially be a swingman if we needed to, right? And then you look at our defence. Now, 3 players I want to bring up here. One is one of the Triple M's. It could be any one of them, but you probably think either a Mycheck or a Membry aren't going to be there for too much longer. They're not going to be there for 4 or 5 years. I would say Mycheck, if he decides to continue, if he gets offered a contract and stuff, you're looking at probably another 2. If you look at someone like Tim Membry, he's just come across the Collingwood, so he'll see out whatever contract he's got and potentially try and get another one. And then you look at a player like Dan McStay, who's just come across. He's sort of touched wood. He's gotten over his injuries and stuff. So he's going to be a key stay in there. So it's really only the 2 that potentially could be moved on within the next couple of years. Within the next 5 years, you're probably not going to see both of them. Who knows? So he can come down as that swingman. I hope you guys are trying to understand what I'm saying, because also if you look at our ruck stocks, Who knows? Mason Cox might not even get a contract for next season. So if someone was to come in like that on the proviso Darcy Cameron stays, then you're looking at Darcy Cameron being a ruck. Then you've got Ilaru Smith and Oscar Steen who can obviously apply their trade as a backup. And then you've got someone who's most likely going to go in defence and can actually play that role. Now, I'm going to bring up something and it's going to be controversial and people might not agree with me, but it's the concept that I'm thinking of with this. If this move was to happen, if he was to come to Collingwood, this is screaming the Lee Brown role. Lee Brown was probably a bit more broader and a bit more bullish on the ball and stuff, so they were a little bit different. But the role that Lee Brown had where he could go up forward, he could go down back, he could do the relief ruck work. Right now at Collingwood, I don't see us having a player that can do that. I see us having players that can play dual positions, like a Will Hoskin-Elliott, who can play pretty much anywhere along the ground apart from the ruck. You've got players like a Josh Dacos and a Nick Dacos who can play on the halfbacks and can play in the midfield. Same with Pendlebury. Sidebottom can go in the middle. He can go on the wing. You can probably put him down on the halfback line as well. So that's an example of players that we've got that pretty much can play anywhere and everywhere. That's why I'm thinking that if we were to get someone like him, he'd be very versatile, not just in the back line, but around the ground if we needed him to pinch hit anywhere else, and you've got that option there. My main priority right now is to make sure that, looking at our team, I want us, I sound like the coach here, but my main priority for our team at the moment is to get all our players back, to make sure the defence is solid. But a half back with Josh Dacos, a centre half back with potentially a Darcy Moore or a Jack Silvagni, and then a Houston on the other half back, the dynamic there kind of works. We've seen Darcy Moore, he had a shocker against Freo, but we've seen Darcy Moore play football where he's become that intercept marker that Nathan Murphy was when everyone's playing, and it releases him a bit more forward of the ball instead of being such a lockdown defender, which is more of a Billy Frampton role, let's be honest. The dynamics there, I can see it working. 5-year deal, $800,000 a year. If he wants to come to Collingwood, my personal opinion is I would take him in a heartbeat. Make sure you tell me what you think. Drop a comment. Call it as you see it. And as always, go the Pies.